You weren't supposed to hear this. Not like this. Not in the dark, not alone, not with that quiet feeling creeping up the back of your neck, the one that tells you something is wrong before your mind can even explain why. Because what I'm about to show you, it doesn't just live in stories. It lives in patterns, in decisions, in the moments you thought were random. 5 stories, all from one summer, all real, and all connected by something people refuse to name. Listen carefully, because once you see it, you don't unsee it. A child alone in a house, told to lock the doors. A simple instruction, right? Safety, routine. Trust the system, trust the structure, trust that if you follow the rules, nothing gets in. But that night, the storm didn't just rage outside. It came in. Cold. That's what he remembered first. Not fear, not danger. Cold. The kind of cold that doesn't belong. The kind that tells you something has already changed before you notice what. And that's how it starts. Not with a scream, with a shift. A detail out of place, a door that was closed, now open, a sound that doesn't match the environment, your instincts whispering something your logic refuses to accept. Because from the moment you're born, you're trained to doubt that instinct. You're told the world is safe, predictable, controlled. But what if that's the lie? What if the real danger isn't chaos, but the illusion of order? That night, he followed instructions, locked the doors, checked the windows, did everything right, and still, something was already inside. Think about that. Let it sit. Because this isn't just a story about a break-in. This is about something older, something deeper. The idea that security is performative, that locks don't keep things out, they keep you calm. And calm people don't question. They don't look deeper. They don't see the patterns forming right in front of them. You're still listening, which means something in you already knows. So don't pull away now. We're just getting started. He should have gone back to sleep. That's what most people would have done. Pulled the blanket tighter, ignored the cold, ignored the feeling, buried instinct beneath comfort, the way you've been trained to do your entire life. But something in him didn't let that happen. And that's the part you need to pay attention to. Because buried under years of conditioning, distraction, and noise, there's still a signal inside you that knows when something is wrong. He got up. Small feet pressing into carpet, every step heavier than it should have been, not because of weight, but because of awareness, that quiet, creeping realization that the world you thought you understood might not be what it seems. He checked everything again. Doors, locked. Windows, sealed. Blinds, shut. Everything exactly the way it was supposed to be, and yet the cold remained. That's the detail most people ignore. They would explain it away. Faulty heater, storm pressure, coincidence. But here's the truth most people aren't ready to face. When something doesn't add up, it's not random. It's evidence. You see, systems, whether they're homes, institutions, or entire societies, are built on predictability, cause and effect, input and output. So when the outcome doesn't match the inputs, something else is influencing the system, something hidden. And that's what that cold was, a signal, proof that something had already bypassed every visible layer of security. Now ask yourself this. How often has that happened in your life? Moments where everything looked fine on the surface, but something felt off, and you ignored it because it was easier. Because questioning it would mean accepting that you don't actually have control, that maybe the structures around you aren't as solid as you think, that maybe they were never meant to protect you in the first place. He didn't know any of that consciously, not yet, but his body did. That's why he couldn't shake the feeling. That's why he walked upstairs, not toward comfort, but toward confrontation. And that's where the illusion finally started to crack. Because when lightning lit up that room, it revealed something that shouldn't exist. A door, slightly open. And understand this clearly. That door didn't just open in that moment. It had already been opened, long before he noticed, just like everything else. Lightning doesn't just illuminate, it exposes. For a fraction of a second, the entire room was laid bare. Every object, every shadow, every corner stripped of ambiguity. And in that single, violent flash of truth, something was different. The closet door. Not wide open, not dramatically displaced, just slightly ajar. That's how it always happens, not with chaos, with subtlety. Because the human mind is trained to dismiss small inconsistencies. You're wired to normalize what you see, to smooth over the cracks, to convince yourself that nothing is wrong unless it's screaming in your face. But danger doesn't scream, it waits. That door had been closed. He knew it. Not with adult certainty, not with documented proof, but with something far more reliable. Instinct. An instinct doesn't misfire without reason. Another flash. The room resets. Darkness swallows everything again. But now the image is burned into him. That tiny shift, that impossible change, that silent confirmation that something had moved without permission, without sound, without being seen. This is where most people would freeze, panic, scream, run blindly. But fear, real fear, the kind that rewires you, does something different. It sharpens, it slows time down, it forces you to become aware of every breath, every movement, every possible outcome. And in that moment, he understood something without words. He wasn't alone. Not in the comforting, imaginary way children fear the dark. No, this was real. There was something in that room, watching, waiting, maybe even listening. And here's the part you need to understand. This wasn't just about a person hiding in a closet. That's the surface level interpretation, the one people cling to because it keeps the world simple. But think deeper. How long had it been there? How did it get in? Why hadn't he heard it before? Questions like that don't just apply to one night in one house. They apply to everything. Every system you trust, every authority you believe in, every structure you assume is secure. Because the truth is, by the time you notice the door is open, it's already too late. The breach already happened. The presence is already inside. And all you're left with is the moment you finally realize it. He didn't scream. And that matters more than you think. Because screaming is instinctive. It's the body's way of calling for help, of signaling distress to the outside world. But what happens when some deeper part of you understands that help isn't coming? Silence. That's what took over. A level of silence so complete, it wasn't just the absence of sound, it was control. Forced, deliberate control. The kind that doesn't belong to a child, but emerges when survival overrides everything else. He moved. Slowly. Carefully. Every step calculated, even if he didn't realize he was calculating. The distance from his bed to the door became something else entirely. Not just space, but risk, exposure. A narrow line between being unseen and being discovered. And here's where things shift from fear to awareness. Because in that moment, he wasn't thinking like a child anymore. He was thinking like prey. You see, most people go their entire lives without ever accessing that state. They exist in comfort, in routine, in artificial safety. They never have to confront the raw biological truth that under the surface of civilization, you are still an animal. And animals know things. They sense presence, intent, threat, before logic ever catches up. That's why he didn't look back. That's why he didn't check the closet again. Because some part of him understood, if you acknowledge it, it might acknowledge you back. He reached the door. opened it just enough, slipped through. And then he walked into the hallway like nothing was wrong, because survival sometimes isn't about speed. It's about not triggering what's already watching. Down the stairs, each step a test, each creak a potential signal. And still, nothing chased him, nothing called out, nothing revealed itself, which is worse. Because now the question isn't, what is it? The question is, why hasn't it moved yet? He made it downstairs, and that's when the fear finally broke through. Not upstairs, not when he saw the door, but when he was out, when distance created just enough space for reality to catch up. He hid under the table. Think about that instinct, not running outside, not grabbing a weapon, hiding, reducing visibility, making himself smaller. That's not taught, that's ancient. And while he sat there shaking, trying to breathe without making a sound, something upstairs shifted, because whatever was in that room had finally decided to move. The house had already been claimed. That's what most people don't understand about moments like this. They think danger arrives, makes noise, announces itself. No. By the time you feel it, it's already inside your perimeter, already moving through your space like it belongs there. Under the table, he learned that truth in its rawest form. At first, nothing, just the storm outside, thunder cracking like the sky itself was splitting open, rain slamming against the windows, masking everything, every subtle shift, every hidden step. That's how it works. Noise outside, so you don't hear what's inside. Then, a sound. Not loud, not dramatic, but wrong. Footsteps from above. And not normal footsteps. This is where the story breaks away from what your mind wants to believe, because your brain will try to rationalize it. Someone walking, someone sneaking, someone human. But what he heard didn't follow rhythm. It wasn't step, step, step. It was erratic, unstable, like something struggling to move correctly, like something that didn't quite understand how walking was supposed to work. You ever hear something like that? A pattern that almost makes sense, but not quite? That's when your instincts start screaming. Because humans recognize humans. Movement, sound, behavior. We're wired for it. So when something imitates that, but imperfectly, it triggers something deeper than fear. It triggers recognition of the unnatural. The steps came closer, down the stairs, fast, then slow, then skipping, like gravity didn't apply the same way, like joints weren't bending right. And under that table, he held his breath, not because he chose to, but because his body shut down every unnecessary function. Breathing makes noise. Noise gets you found. And then it entered the room. No announcement, no hesitation, just presence. Right there. Close enough that he didn't need to see it to know. It knew the layout. It knew where it was going. And then something happened that separates this from every normal explanation you're trying to cling to. It didn't search. It walked directly toward him, like it already knew where he was hiding. Let that settle, because that means one of two things. Either he made a mistake without realizing it, or whatever was in that house didn't need to see him to find him. It stopped right in front of the table. No hesitation, no confusion, just certainty. And in that moment, every illusion collapsed, because hiding only works when you're unseen. And he wasn't. Not really. Slowly, too slowly, it crouched. Not like a person would, not with balance, not with intention. Its movement felt assembled, like something copying an action it had observed but never truly learned. Then came the silence again. But this time, it wasn't empty. It was shared. He could feel it there, just inches away. The space under the table shrinking, the air tightening, the cold intensifying until it felt like breathing ice. And then, a voice, soft, wrong, familiar. "Why did you leave your room?" That's when it broke him, because that voice was his mother's, or at least something wearing it. Same tone, same cadence, same warmth, twisted just enough that your mind rejects it while your instincts scream to obey it. This is where most people misunderstand fear. It's not the unknown that terrifies you the most. It's the known, distorted. Because if something can perfectly replicate what you trust, then trust itself becomes a weakness. He didn't answer, couldn't, and that's the only reason he's still here. Because whatever it was, it expected a response. It needed participation, recognition, and when it didn't get it, the mask slipped. Just for a second. The voice dropped, not louder, not deeper, but empty, like sound without a source. "Look at me." He didn't. Even as something shifted closer, even as a hand, or something shaped like one, pressed against the edge of the table, even as the cold turned into something heavier, something that felt like pressure against his chest. Minutes passed, or seconds. Time doesn't behave normally when you're inside something like that. And then it stopped. Just stopped. The pressure lifted, the cold eased, the presence gone. No footsteps, no door, nothing. Like it had never been there at all. Morning came eventually. Light filled the house, ordinary and safe and explainable. His parents returned. Everything looked untouched. Normal. That word again. But here's what stayed with him. Not the fear, not the memory, the pattern. Because when his mother asked why he slept downstairs, he told her everything. And she went quiet. Not confused, not concerned, quiet. Then she said something he didn't understand at the time, but you will. "I told you not to leave your room." Not we, not you were safe, not you imagined it, just that. Like the rule mattered more than what broke it. And years later, he realized what that meant. The doors weren't there to keep something out. They were there to keep him in. 5 stories, 1 pattern, and now you've seen the first one all the way through. So the real question isn't whether you believe it, it's this. How many locked doors in your life were never meant to protect you? You trust your reflection. You don't think about it, but you do. Every morning, every passing window, every dark screen that briefly catches your face, you assume one thing without question. It's you. Perfectly synced, perfectly obedient, a flawless copy that moves when you move, stops when you stop, exists only because you do. That assumption is the foundation, and like every foundation we've talked about, it only takes one crack. It started small. It always does. A girl, 16, maybe 17, standing in her bathroom late at night. The kind of night where everything feels slightly off, but nothing is visibly wrong. Phone battery dead, house quiet, just her and the soft hum of electricity in the walls. She looks in the mirror. Normal. Tired eyes, slight movement, a blink. Then she turns off the light. Darkness, but not complete, because there's still enough glow from the hallway to catch the outline of her reflection. And that's when it happens. She moves first, just a step back, but the reflection doesn't. Not immediately. A delay, less than a second. So small most people would dismiss it, blame their eyes, their brain, a trick of light. But remember this, your brain is trained to protect your sense of reality, so when reality breaks, it lies to you. She freezes, and now she's watching closely, testing, because something inside her, that same instinct, has already woken up. She raises her hand, slowly, carefully, and this time the reflection follows. Perfect, exact, like nothing ever happened. And that should have been the end of it. That's the moment most people would choose comfort, laugh it off, walk away, forget. But she doesn't. Because once you notice a glitch, you don't stop looking for it. The next night, she tries again. Same mirror, same position, same low light. This time, she doesn't move first. She just stares. And here's something important. Humans aren't built to maintain eye contact with themselves for long periods. It creates discomfort, dissociation, a subtle sense that something is wrong. Because on some level, you expect the other version of you to be independent, to break, to reveal something. Minutes pass. Nothing. Then, she smiles, just slightly, a test, and the reflection smiles back, but wider. Too wide. By the time her brain catches it, it's already corrected, back to normal, like nothing ever happened. But it did. And now the crack is bigger. She stops sleeping properly after that, because every reflective surface becomes a question. Every window at night, every black phone screen, every polished object. Is it still synced, or is it just pretending to be? That's when she makes the mistake. The same mistake everyone makes when they get too close to something they don't understand. She tries to prove it. Third night, same setup, but this time she records it. Phone balanced against the sink, camera pointed directly at the mirror. Evidence, proof, control. She hits record, steps into frame, and stares. Longer this time, pushing past the discomfort, forcing the moment. And eventually, something pushes back. Her reflection blinks. She doesn't. A full second passes. Then it blinks again. Still, she hasn't moved. Now her breathing changes. Because this isn't a glitch anymore. This is independent, deliberate, aware. And then, it tilts its head. Not copying, not following, leading. Like it's studying her, the same way she's been studying it. And in that moment, the roles reverse. She's not the original anymore. She's the reflection, because the thing in the mirror is the one in control. She runs. Of course she runs. Light on, mirror avoided, door shut. Heart racing fast enough to drown out thought. And for a moment, distance gives her relief, the illusion of safety, until she remembers. The recording. Proof. She needs to see it, needs to confirm she's not losing her mind. So she goes back. Slowly, carefully. Phone still in place, still recording. She stops it. Hands shaking, and watches. The video is normal. At first. Everything synced, every movement perfect. No delay, no extra smile, no independent motion. Just her, exactly as it should be. And that's when most people would feel relief, because there's no evidence, no proof, no confirmation, just imagination, right? But the video doesn't end when she remembers it ending. It keeps going. After she runs out of frame, the mirror is still visible. Empty room, silent, still. Then, movement. From inside the mirror, not outside, inside. Her reflection walks into frame, alone. No original, no person in the room. Just the copy, standing there, breathing, looking directly at the camera. And then, it smiles. That same too wide smile, the one that doesn't belong, and walks forward, closer, closer, until her face fills the frame, and just before her video cuts, it whispers something. Not loud, not clear, but enough to understand. Now I don't have to follow you anymore. She broke the pattern, and once that happens, there's no rule left to protect you, because reflections aren't supposed to lead. They're not supposed to exist independently. They're not supposed to watch you when you're not looking at them. And here's the part that matters, the part that connects this to everything else. The next morning, every mirror in the house is covered, not by her, by her parents. No explanation, no conversation, just silent compliance with a rule that was never spoken before. And when she tries to ask why, they don't answer. They just repeat one thing: don't look into them at night. Same pattern, different form. A rule that exists not to protect you from fear, but to stop you from seeing something that's already looking back. You think your phone belongs to you, that it listens when you tell it to, that it responds, calculates, stores, and sleeps when you do. A tool, passive, controlled. But here's the thing most people never question. Why does it need to listen all the time, just in case you say something? It started with a message, not unusual, not dramatic, just out of place. A man, early 30s, routine life, nothing extreme, wakes up at 3:17 a.m. Not from a nightmare, not from noise, just awake. Like something nudged him out of sleep. He checks his phone. One notification from an unknown number. No name, no history, just a message. Stop checking the doors. Now think about that, because that's not random. That's specific. He doesn't respond at first, because like you, his brain tries to rationalize it. Spam, wrong number, coincidence. But here's what breaks that illusion. He had been checking the doors, not obsessively, not consciously, but that night before going to bed, he checked them twice. Something felt off. Same pattern again. The instinct, the quiet signal, ignored. He replies, simple. Who is this? Delivered. Read. No typing indicator. No response. Minutes pass. Then, another message. You missed one. That's when the shift happens, because now it's not curiosity, it's awareness, the kind that tightens your chest and sharpens your senses. He gets up, slowly, checks the house. Front door, locked. Back door, locked. Windows, secure. Everything normal, until he reaches the laundry room, the side door, unlocked. Now stop there, because this is where people make the mistake of simplifying the story. They think, oh, he forgot. But remember the pattern. When something doesn't match your actions, it's not random. It's interference. He locks it, double checks, stands there for a moment longer than necessary, because now the house doesn't feel like his anymore. Now it feels observed, measured, known. He goes back to bed, but he doesn't sleep. He waits, watching the phone, because now the phone isn't just a device. It's a connection to something that shouldn't know what it knows. At 3:33 a.m., another message. No vibration this time, no notification sound, just there, on the screen, like it placed itself. Better. That's when fear turns into something else. Not panic, not yet, but loss of control. Because whatever this is, it's not reacting, it's guiding. The next day, he tries to break it. New SIM card, different phone. Disconnect, reset, control the variable. That's what people do when systems fail. They try to isolate the problem. But the problem isn't the device, it's the connection. That night, 3:17 a.m., he wakes up again. Same way, no reason, just pulled into awareness. He looks at the new phone. No messages, nothing, silence. Relief starts to creep in. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it's over. Then the screen lights up. No notification, just the front camera activating on its own. And for a split second, he sees himself lying there, looking at the phone. But something's wrong, because the angle isn't from where he's holding it. It's from above, from the corner of the room. The screen goes black. Then a message appears. No number, no contact, just text. You're still missing one. Now there's no system left to blame, no device, no explanation. Because the phone didn't receive that information. It showed him something already there. He doesn't move this time, doesn't check the doors, doesn't leave the bed, because now he understands something important. The messages aren't warnings, they're tests, instructions. Minutes pass. Nothing happens. Then, a sound. Soft, close, not from outside, from inside the room. A faint click, like a door being opened. And here's where the pattern completes itself, because when he finally looks, slowly, carefully, toward the corner of the room, there's nothing there. No open door, no movement, no visible threat, just darkness. And his phone lights up one last time. Final message. Wrong one. Morning comes. Everything normal. Every door locked. Every window sealed. No sign of entry. No sign of anything. Except one thing. The closet door slightly open. You've seen that before. Different story, same detail, same pattern. And now ask yourself this. If something can see your house, guide your actions, and show you angles that don't physically exist, then what exactly do you think your phone is doing when it's just sitting there, facing you?
There's a reason people don't like empty places. Not just abandoned buildings or dark alleys. I mean structured emptiness. Schools at night, offices after hours, hospitals between shifts. Places designed for constant human activity, suddenly silent. Because when a place is built for movement, and that movement stops, something feels wrong, like the system is still running, but the users are gone. It was a school. Nothing special. 3 floors, long corridors, fluorescent lights that never fully turn off, the kind that hum quietly, like they're thinking. A security guard, night shift, routine, predictable. That word again. His job was simple. Walk the halls, check the locks, make sure nothing moved that wasn't supposed to. And for weeks, nothing did. Until one night, something followed the routine better than he did. It started at 2:12 a.m. He's on the 2nd floor. Same route he's walked every night. Left corridor, science wing. Turn, check doors, move on. And that's when he hears it. Footsteps. Behind him. Now here's the important part. He doesn't panic, because footsteps in a building, that's explainable. Intruder, student, staff, someone who shouldn't be there. A problem with a solution. He turns around. Nothing. Empty hallway, still air, same hum of lights. So he does what anyone trained to handle real-world situations does. He tests it. Starts walking again. Slower. Listening. And there it is again. Footsteps. Matching him. Step for step. Perfect sync. He stops. The sound stops. Immediately. Not a delay, not an echo. Exact. Now that's not how sound works. That's not how people move. That's mimicry. He turns again. Nothing. But now the hallway feels different. Not empty. Occupied. Just not visibly. So he changes the pattern. Quick turn, fast steps, sudden stop. Trying to break whatever is following him. And for a moment, it works. Silence. No footsteps, no echo, nothing. Relief starts to form. Until, from the far end of the hallway, he hears it. Footsteps. Not behind him anymore. Ahead. And they're not matching him now. They're leading, walking away, like something just moved past him without crossing the space in between. This is where instinct kicks in, because now the situation isn't physical, it's positional. Something has control over where it is, without moving through normal space. He should have left. That's the correct response. Exit the building, call for backup, break the pattern. But like every story, he doesn't. Because once you're inside something like this, you don't just walk away. You need to understand it. So he follows. down the corridor, toward the sound. Each step slower than the last, because now he's not checking the building, he's entering something else. The footsteps stop at a classroom. Door slightly open. You've seen that detail before. He pushes it open. Lights flicker. Room empty. Desks aligned. Board clean. Nothing out of place, except the far corner, where a chair is pulled out, facing the wall. He steps inside, and that's when the door behind him closes. Not slammed, not forced, just shut, like a completed emotion that was already in progress. He turns, reaches for the handle. It doesn't move. Locked. From the outside. Now think about that, because he didn't hear anyone, didn't see anyone, but something just performed an action that requires presence. Then, the footsteps again, inside the room, not around him, not approaching, but repeating. Step, step, step. The same 3 steps, over and over, in the far corner where the chair is. He looks, and for a moment, nothing, just the chair, facing the wall. Then it happens. The chair moves, slightly, forward, like someone just shifted their weight in it, and the footsteps stop. Silence again, but now it's focused, centered, waiting. Then a voice, quiet, calm, right in front of him, even though nothing is there. You're off your route. That's when it clicks. Not fear, not confusion, understanding. This wasn't random. This wasn't something entering the building. This was something maintaining it, a system, a pattern, a routine, and he broke it. The lights flicker harder now, buzzing louder, like the environment itself is reacting, correcting. The chair turns, slowly, dragging across the floor, facing him now, empty, but not occupied. And the voice again, closer, sharper, more defined. You're off your route. He doesn't move. Can't, because now he understands something most people never do. This place doesn't need people. It needs roles. And tonight, he wasn't the guard anymore. He was the error. Morning report says everything was normal. Doors locked, no signs of intrusion, no damage, no missing items. Just one note, written in the logbook, in his handwriting. Route completed. But here's the part no one could explain. The timestamp, 2:12 a.m., the exact moment he first heard the footsteps behind him.
They say people leave pieces of themselves behind. Not the memories, not the photos, not the objects, but something smaller, harder to define, something that sticks to the walls, the floors, the corners of a room. It started with the apartment. Small, top floor, a window that never closed quite right. Rent was cheap. Landlord never came around. Perfect, he thought, for writing. And he did. For a while. Words flowed, stories, drafts, ideas, all night, all alone, until the scratching started. At first, subtle. Bed frame, floorboards, light tapping against the wall. Nothing consistent. Could be anything, could be nothing, but that's how it always starts. Nothing. Then the whispers. Not words exactly, just syllables, murmurs, under the hum of the heater, beneath the click of the radiator, always just behind him. He tells himself it's stress, lack of sleep, nothing real. Then the objects move. Not far, not violent, just slightly off. Book on the edge of the desk, chair angled the wrong way, pen rolled a few inches, and the air feels thick, like it knows you're watching. One night, he wakes to the sound of typing. He doesn't have a computer on, and yet, tap, tap, tap. He freezes, heart pounding, room silent, except for the typing. It stops. Then he sees it, a notebook on the floor, open, pages blank, except for one line. You're not alone. Panic. He checks the doors, locked, windows, locked, nothing. Yet the line repeats every night, in different handwriting, different ink, different notebook, always the same message. You're not alone. Weeks go by. He stops sleeping. The whispers grow louder. The scratches become words he can almost read. He tries leaving, packing up, driving away, but he finds himself back, key in the lock, door opening, not remembering the trip home, until the day he writes something new, something bold. Who are you? The reply is immediate, written on the fogged bathroom mirror. We are everyone who stayed behind. And that's when he realizes this apartment is a container, not for him, not for memories, for the residue of everyone who ever lived, breathed, left, and thought they were gone. And now he's just added his layer. The scratches continue, the whispers, the typing, but he writes too, not because he wants to, not because he's sane, because in this place, silence isn't empty, it's listening, waiting, recording, and it never forgets. Every time a new tenant comes in, it starts over, and the apartment smiles, quietly, knowing it's full. If you stayed too long in an old building once, you know, somewhere a corner of you still exists there, and if you're listening closely, you might hear your own words tapping back at you.